The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers reveal that there are three ways Katie Logan Spencer's claws could come out against Brooke Logan Forrester. The sister showdowns are bound to get much worse in the months ahead, so let's talk about what's in store for Katie and Brooke. Katie and Eric Forrester are keeping his lead designer role under wraps for now, but that secret's bound to blow up sooner or later. There'll come a day when Brooke and Ridge Forrester find out that Eric is working at Logan. You can bet Brooke's going to rip into Katie once that happens, but Katie will fire back in a big way. Katie may essentially rub this victory in Brooke's face and suggest Brooke's just mad that Eric chose to support Katie over her. It's easy to imagine Katie gloating and perhaps acting like Brooke's ego is the real problem here. Eric went where he was finally appreciated, so Katie will think Brooke and Ridge need to accept that they pushed him into retirement before he was ready. Now Eric has a chance to make Katie's fashion house a huge success, so B&B spoilers say she'll play that news up to Brooke sooner or later. At some point, Katie may also use the press to strike back against Brooke. Maybe Katie will give some interviews that express disappointment over Brooke's lack of support. Katie could make it seem like Brooke's jealous and get the public rooting for the underdog Logan sister in this situation. With Eric's Forrester fame in her corner, Katie could make a splash in the media and infuriate Brooke in the process. Of course, a storyline like this is inevitably going to turn into a battle on the runway. Once that happens, Katie will work to prove her new fashion house is worthy of competing in the big leagues. Eric will make sure Katie's ready with an epic debut collection, but Katie will oversee everything and approve decisions along the way. By the time the fashion face-off arrives, Katie will hopefully be prepared to defeat Brooke and everyone else at Forrester Creations. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers say Katie and Brooke's feud will bring some fierce moments, so stay tuned for updates on all the chaos. On The Bold and the Beautiful, Will Spencer is playing a dangerous game at the beach house while Elektra is away, leaving the door wide open for Dylan to dance into the plot. With Elektra and Steffi off in San Francisco showing jewelry to Dottie Bright, Will has decided that babysitting Elektra's cousin is a great idea. It isn't. Dylan has made it abundantly clear that she has more than a friendly crush on Will, and she's now using her ballet background to spin a seductive web that Will seems all too happy to get caught in. Frankly, it's hard to understand why Will is being this dense. Has he already forgotten the trauma he and Elektra just survived? They barely made it through the nightmare of Remy Price, the obsessed stalker who tormented Elektra with deep fake nudes and nearly took her life. Then there was Luna Nozawa, the serial killer who targeted Will and left a trail of bodies behind. You would think after a literal brush with a psychopath, Will would be on high alert for anyone with a mysterious vibe and a boundary problem. Instead, he's sitting on the couch watching Dylan pirouette her way into his lap. Dylan isn't even trying to be subtle. She's using the beach house to see the stage, performing a ballet display that is less about art and more about nailing the audition for the role of Will's next mistake. And Will? He's just sitting there like a stunned mullet. It's so frustrating to watch a character who should be smarter than this fall for the oldest trick in the book, especially when he's made falling for that type of trick an absolute work of art. Bravo, kid, bravo. Enter Ivy Forrester. Ivy is playing the role of Peeping Tom, and she caught the two of them on the couch looking like they were seconds away from a kiss. But instead of tearing in there, Ivy just stood there, looked at the camera, and in a muted Aussie accent muttered, "It's not proper at all." Seriously, who says that? Where were the expletives? The, "Aw, Struth, stone the flamin' crows." If Ivy is supposed to be a representative of the land down under, she's doing a poor job of it in this moment. A real Aussie lady wouldn't be standing in the shadows whispering about propriety. She'd be tying her hair up in some obscene pineapple-looking thing and kicking that beach house door down, grabbing Dylan by her ears to wrangle her out of the house, and giving Will a proper smack around the head with her thongs for being such a flamin' gala. The Spencers and Forresters have had enough drama to last a lifetime. The last thing they need is another friend with an agenda and a pair of pointy shoes. The Bold and the Beautiful's must-watch moments for Friday, January 30th include Sheila feeling grateful to Taylor for saving her marriage to Deacon. Meanwhile, Taylor and Deacon share a special moment. Plus, Ivy insists that Dylan leave town. Brooke and Ridge were glad to have RJ back in Los Angeles. The family spent time catching up and talking about what his return could mean moving forward. It was Ivy who encouraged Elektra to come to LA and helped her secure a position at Forrester Creations. The move has worked out well so far, with Elektra already traveling for business alongside Steffi. During the trip, Elektra and Steffi met with Dottie, a longtime friend of Stephanie Forrester, and her assistant Joseph. The meeting went well and left both women feeling positive about the future. Back in Los Angeles, Dylan crossed a line Elektra had previously set after Will brushed it off as harmless. While babysitting Hayes together, it became clear that Dylan and Will were growing closer. Finn later informed Steffi that Hayes had been left with Dylan and Will. Elektra learned about it from Steffi. Later, at Will's, Dylan practiced ballet and ended up tumbling onto him on the couch, a moment Ivy happened to witness through the window. Meanwhile, Taylor and Deacon revealed their feelings for each other. He went to her for counseling after learning about Sheila's big lie. While Taylor set a boundary with Sheila, that they can't be friends due to her counseling relationship with Deacon. Of course, Taylor failed to set appropriate boundaries with Deacon. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers for Thursday, January 29th, reveal that Ivy Forrester will blast Dylan for crossing the line. Steffi Forrester Finnegan will also play therapist as she continues listening to Elektra Forrester. So here's what viewers can expect. Elektra has been having a fun trip with Steffi in San Francisco, but she can't shake her concerns about Dylan spending time with Will Spencer at his place. Although Elektra warned Dylan not to hang out at the main house, that plan went out the window when John Finnegan brought Hayes Finnegan over. Hayes ended up having to stay the night, so now he's sleeping in a bedroom while Dylan and Will are alone. The more Elektra thinks about the situation, the more she's going to worry about what could happen while she's gone. Elektra claims she trusts Will and Dylan, but Steffi may wonder if that's really the case, considering how concerned she is. If Elektra had faith in her boyfriend and close pal, she wouldn't be freaking out like this. Elektra will open up to Steffi a bit more in Thursday's episode, so she may admit her past is influencing her perspective. B&B fans will recall that Elektra considered Remy Price a friend too, but he hurt her in the worst way possible with all the deepfakes and stalking drama. That whole ordeal with Luna Nozawa has no doubt left Elektra on edge as well. It wasn't Will's fault that Luna violated him, but Elektra may admit it still bothers her thinking about another woman pouncing on Will. While Steffi listens and plays therapist, Ivy will corner Dylan back in Los Angeles. Ivy witnessed Dylan on Will's lap gazing into his eyes, so she's ready to unleash her wrath. It won't be long until Ivy launches a major confrontation with Dylan. Ivy may repeat her not proper at all stance and argue that Dylan's behavior is totally inappropriate. Although Dylan will try to explain her dancing blunder, that won't do anything to change Ivy's mind. Ivy may contend that Dylan shouldn't have been giving Will a private ballet show either. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers say Ivy will rip into Dylan for stepping out of bounds and order her out of town by the end of the week, so stay tuned for updates on the bad news ahead for Dylan. The Bold and the Beautiful recap is in for Wednesday, January 29th, 2026. In today's episode, Elektra Forrester gets an invitation. Dylan falls in Will Spencer's lap. Plus, RJ Forrester issues a reassurance. At the hotel room, Elektra and Steffi Forrester Finnegan talk. The brunette gets a text. John Finnegan is still at the hospital. Hayes Forrester Finnegan will have to spend the night with Will and Dylan. They both assure each other things will be just fine. At the beach house, Hayes does a magic trick. The boy learned it from Dylan. Finn calls. Can Hayes spend the night? Dylan puts him on speakerphone and Will agrees. Hayes is overjoyed. Will and Dylan tell Hayes to get ready for bed. The boy wonders if they are going to bed too. They both blush and send him to brush his teeth. Will loves how much Hayes adores Dylan. Will can tell she's a good and kind person. Back in San Francisco, Elektra and Steffi meet with Rich and Harmony. They want something bohemian, like a diamond piece necklace. Not exactly what I would call bohemian, but whatever. Harmony claims she met Ivy once, or maybe it was just a vision. Rich buys the piece and invites Steffi and Elektra to an enlightenment festival. After they leave, Elektra and Steffi can't believe it. Steffi calls Finn with an update. Meanwhile, Electra calls Ivy Forrester. The lady says that Electra is too kind to Dylan, but this isn't proper. Electra hangs up. She can't talk about that right now. Ivy keeps ranting that Dylan isn't being proper. Did we go back to the 1950s? Moving on. Hayes goes to bed. So, Will asks Dylan to show her dance moves. The furniture is moved and Dylan changes into a dancing outfit. A bit extreme, but okay. She trips while dancing and falls into Will's lap. Ivy sees from a window and is horrified. This isn't proper. At Brooke Logan Forrester's place, she talks to RJ. Ridge Forrester is working late. Brooke says Ridge would love to have RJ working by his side. The girls at Forrester Creations are excited that RJ is back too. RJ thinks it might be because he's the boss's son. RJ comments on Electra's beauty. Brooke talks about Will's devotion to Electra. RJ says he's not a player like his father. Carter Walton surprises Daphne Rose with dinner. It's French food. Carter looks forward to visiting Paris with Daphne. The man wants to plan the wedding. Steffi will be Daphne's maid of honor. Daphne wonders if Ridge will be the best man. He wants to have the wedding there. Daphne seems doubtful, but says she would love to marry where they met. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers are in for Thursday, January 29th, 2026. In tomorrow's episode, Ivy Forrester confronts Dylan. Meanwhile, Steffi Forrester Finnegan offers guidance to Electra Forrester. Keep reading to find out what is coming up in the CBS soap opera. Let's start off with Ivy, who keeps ranting out how Dylan staying at Will Spencer's place is improper. Ivy did talk to Electra, but hadn't seen the improper moment yet. Ivy couldn't stop herself from ranting about Dylan on the phone with Electra. The girl is on a business trip and needs to stay focused on that. So, she hung up on Ivy, and rightly so. However, later, Ivy goes to the beach house and sees Dylan in Will's lap. The woman turns around quickly, but what will she do? Electra doesn't want to hear anything about it. So, Ivy will take matters into her own hands. Oh boy. Ivy will end up confronting Dylan about what she saw. The girl will try to explain that she was just dancing for Will and fell. However, Ivy already thinks this living arrangement is really improper. That's the word she keeps using. Improper, improper, improper. Even though Will insisted that Dylan dance for him, Ivy will be suspicious. Now will she tell Electra what she saw, or wait until the girl returns to Los Angeles? The Bold and the Beautiful, spoilers for tomorrow's episode, reveal that Electra and Steffi will continue to discuss the Dylan situation. Both women know that Will is committed. Electra also feels she can trust Dylan. However, when they are both alone in a room together, Electra gets a bad feeling. Electra will open up and talk about this with Steffi. Even though they don't know each other well, Steffi will try to advise the young woman. Steffi should know from experience that sometimes things happen that people don't mean to. Steffi has been on both sides of the coin. Steffi has been the cheater, but has also been cheated on. So, she might have some advice for Electra. Even though Dylan's her friend and having a hard time, maybe living with Electra would be better than Will's. There is also the trust factor. Is Dylan really a threat, or is Electra just worried because of Luna Nozawa's actions? Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most on Thursday, January 29th, 2026? On the January 28th, 2026 episode of The Bold and the Beautiful, Daphne and Carter planned their wedding. Electra and Steffi found success in San Francisco, and Ivy was shocked to find Dylan in Will's arms. Steffi received another text from Finn, and it was still at the hospital. Hayes was going to be with Will and Dylan for an extended period, which left Steffi feeling guilty. She had no idea how much time together bothered Electra. Steffi and Electra met with some new clients who hoped for something more bohemian to match their vibes. They presented the clients with a one-of-a-kind piece, and to their surprise, the payment was double what was expected. The trip to San Francisco had proven to be more than Forrester could have possibly dreamed of. Finn and Steffi spoke on the phone, and he confessed that his patient's emergency meant Hayes would have a sleepover with Will. Electra was none too pleased with the development. Electra quickly called Ivy to let her know that Will and Dylan were serving as overnight babysitters for Hayes. Electra thought it was bizarre that Dylan lived so close to Will, while she spent most of her nights at Eric's house. Steffi understood it to an extent, but she knew how devoted Will was to her. She didn't think Dylan was the type of girl who would ever cross the line intentionally. Ivy thought her niece had been far too generous to her previously homeless friend, and now things had crossed the line. Dylan and Will's dinner for two was inappropriate in Ivy's eyes, and she was disheartened to hear how distressed Electra was by it. Ivy spoke to herself about how Dylan's living arrangement at Will's wasn't proper. This was far from the first time that Ivy took an issue with something that Will had done. She tried her best to inch Electra toward a breakup during the Luna drama, and now her niece contended with yet another third party in the mix. At the beach house, Dylan got a call from Finn, who asked if Hayes could spend the night there with her and Will. The patient suffered complications, so Finn asked Will if he could handle it. Hayes was elated at the chance to stay overnight with Will and Ms. Dylan, so he wasn't concerned about his father working late. Dylan and Will told Hayes that it was time for bed, and he asked if they'd be following suit. They skirted around the question and got Hayes to bed. Once he was down, Will asked Dylan to show him some of her dance moves, so she left for the guest house to change into something more comfortable and performance-friendly. Dylan returned to the main house, dressed for her personal dance recital for Will. He put on some classical music, and she used it as inspiration to strut across his living room, but she tripped mid-performance. Dylan's fall landed her in Will's arms, which Ivy caught at the exact moment that it happened. She was immediately appalled at the sight of her niece's boyfriend holding another woman. Ivy screamed to herself outside, saying, "It's not proper! It's not proper at all!" Brooke told RJ how much she missed having him home after he got back from a trip to the pool. Ridge was working late due to a combination of Eric's retirement and Steffi's out-of-town trip. Brooke remarked that she wished RJ could work alongside his mother, which he pointed out as not so subtle. Brooke recognized RJ's smile, which prompted him to admit that he found Electra beautiful. RJ emphasized the lack of blood relation between him and Electra, which hinted that he might be looking for me. Brooke informed her son that Electra was the only girl for Will, so there was no trouble in paradise. Carter arranged a catered meal for him and Daphne in the Forrester showroom. She couldn't believe that her new fiancé had gone to the trouble of bringing a Parisian meal to her. Carter borrowed several props from a recent Forrester photo shoot to make it come to life. Carter looked forward to the day he would visit Daphne's homeland with her as his tour guide. He was certain that Daphne was the person with whom he was meant to spend the rest of his life. They toasted to Steffi since she helped bring the pair together before she jetted off to Paris. Daphne wondered where their wedding would take place, and he wanted it to be at Forrester Creations. It wouldn't have been Daphne's first choice, but Carter felt the runway was the perfect backdrop for their ceremony. Daphne wished Notre Dame could have been the site of their nuptials, so she decided to give the Forrester runway the honors of their wedding. The House of Forrester is where everything had begun, and it was where they'd finally make things official. RJ Forrester is not going to have to work very hard on the bold and the beautiful to score a date with his fake cousin Electra. As a matter of fact, Will Spencer Jr. is going to make it easy for him. Will has no idea he has some competition for Electra Forrester. But he's about to find out. Here's what's coming up next week on B&B, spoilers down below. Electra Forrester will lay down the law when she returns from San Francisco and finds out Will Spencer was canoodling with Miss Dillon while she was away. She might even give Will an ultimatum and tell him that she's not coming back to the beach house until he kicks Dillon out. In the meantime, RJ Forrester will be pumped when he learns about Will and Dillon's shenanigans. Bold and the Beautiful spoilers tease that Electra and RJ Forrester will start spending more time together at the office, and she will open up to him about her relationship woes. RJ will be quick to tell Electra Forrester how amazing she is and how lucky Will Spencer is to have her. Actually, RJ thinks that Electra could do much better than Dollar Bill Jr. When Will Spencer finds out that RJ shot his shot with Electra Forrester, he's going to confront Ridge's son and cause a scene. If he's not fired from Forrester Creations by then, he will be soon. B&B spoilers have teased a war erupting between Ridge and Bill's sons, and it looks like it will be over Electra. Do you think Electra and RJ would make a cute couple? Or is the whole cousin thing a little too weird for you? Wouldn't it be easier if Will just kicked Dylan out of his garage? Let us know what you think down below, and don't forget to check Celebrating the Soaps tomorrow for new bold and the beautiful updates and spoilers.